Good morning, folks, and greetings from sunny Alberta. Sure is beautiful out here. We're coming to the end of summer and the leaves are starting to change, but boy, we sure got lucky. But the point of all this is many years ago, I heard a great analogy that has always stuck with me. I don't recall the source, so you have to forgive me. But it said, imagine Canada, our country, our economy, is a ship. And problems, hardship, catastrophe are the rocks. As we all know, historically, ships and rocks and reefs don't tend to get along very well. But the analogy was this. As you're moving along in your boat, or your ship, you can see catastrophe, you can see the rocks. And if you see them early enough, you're able to turn and miss catastrophe. That's if you see it far enough ahead. Now imagine in this example, time is space. So say 5 years ago, before the pandemic, before immigration was increased to unsustainable levels, the housing problem, the carbon taxes increased, interest rates. It takes a long time for an economy to maneuver, just as long in a similar way that it takes a long time for a ship to maneuver. You can not turn a ship on a dime. Surely people understand that. So imagine time and space. So years ago, we could see these problems. And then the rocks in this scenario are the increased poverty in Canada. 25% of Canadians are in or near poverty. That breaks my Canadian heart. Forget who's in charge of the country at the moment. We all know there's many reasons contributing to the decline of our country and paychecks and healthcare and all the things that are going on. And our government was warned by their own people, by their own internal sources and reports years ago that increasing immigration is going to create all kinds of problems. They just had the unemployment report come out that unemployment overall has gone up again, because while they create 22,000 jobs in the first quarter of this year, they also brought in 200,000+ people. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not against immigration. Canada is founded upon immigration, including my own family and many of you watching. So it's about controlled or uncontrolled, unsustainable. When we're bringing in over 1 million people in total, when you include students and everybody, and we're building 180, 200,000 homes, the math just doesn't compute. And these people, our government, were warned about the rocks. And again, the rocks in this scenario are poverty and unemployment increasing, the crazy spike in crime and violence, and the immigration and housing problems, plus many more. But they were warned about the rocks. They were warned about the problems. And they are not avoiding them, as you can tell, as our country is beginning to suffer. So just as when they reduce, say, the interest rate, it takes 12 to 18 months for the economy to feel the impact of that maneuver. Well, just as it takes a ship a while. And where this analogy plays for me is because I'm concerned even with the next election, is it going to be a bit too late? Because if you are warned early enough and you have the foresight and you can see the rocks and turn early enough, you can avoid catastrophe. But if, say, we have an election and things change and then everyone starts paying attention to the rocks, we can start to turn the ship. But if you start turning too late, you will still not avoid catastrophe. So you have that sweet spot where you need to have the foresight and the common sense to not make terrible decisions, which is going to harm everyone. And it's just really, I mean, are these people representing us? Are they really working for us when they're warned about all these problems and they do not avoid catastrophe? It's like they purposely drove us in there. Like, you don't have to be a brain scientist to know that bringing too many people in will harm the job market, the housing market, healthcare, everything. And then they act now like it's a big surprise when they were the ones in charge doing it. So again, my fear is we have an election, or Canadians smarten up or vote differently, maybe in the big cities. And I specifically say this to you because often the big cities, including in Alberta, tend to vote more left, Liberal NDP. And the homeless encampments and the food banks going empty and the crime increasing and all the terrible things, including cost of living, is all because of the wacky ideas of these people. It doesn't mean we don't want to protect the environment, but taxing, Canadians into poverty is not the solution. And they're only going to make it worse because just after winter, next April, before the next election, if it goes that long, they're increasing the carbon tax again. And while all of us pay more for everything, they certainly always vote in Parliament for the politicians to get their yearly wage increase. When's the last time one of you got a break or a good wage increase? Or an awesome vacation paid for by someone else? Or fancy meals, or $100,000 or $200,000 worth of food on an airplane in the course of a week? Or stay at $6,000 or $9,000 hotels and villas and travel the world while telling people that traveling is bad. So I really need people in the cities that are most affected by the cost of living and transportation, by the crime, by the home invasions. I really need the people in the cities to smarten up a bit and at least vote differently once. Try it. I'm never telling people who to vote for, but I'm fearing that no matter who we vote for, we're going to turn the ship too late. And it hurts my Canadian heart. And I make these videos because I really do want the best for our families, the young people that are coming up after us. I mean, who's going to pay for our pensions? Who's going to pay continue to contribute to the big pot that all of, the Canada Pension Plan is paid out of? Who's going to do that if young people can't settle here, can't have families, can't get good jobs or buy homes? I mean, I'm trying to see the problems before we hit the big rocks. And I know nobody wants to talk about these things, and doom and gloom sucks, but it's our current situation. And we need more Canadians to do, say, volunteer, something. We're all busy, we're all trying to survive, we're all trying to pay our bills. But these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tent cities that are all across the country, many Canadians are a few paychecks away from that. Many more Canadians are using food banks. And eventually, something's got to give, guys. But it is always darkest before the dawn. And I know Canadians are tough, hardworking people and good people. Kind, funny. And that's what gives me hope. So if you're not going to get outside and peacefully protest, or you're not going to email your member of parliament in a kind manner again, then at least rethink your votes. Because we're up against the rocks. And the next government's going to probably need more than 4 years to clean it up. And I hope that some of you folks vote differently. At least once. Try it. Anyway, it was a great analogy. And the rocks are at our doorsteps, folks. And I say this for the little people in my family and yours. But you folks have a great weekend. Take care. All the best.